we may have some people that continue to join us throughout the call, but we'll go ahead and get started at this point. So welcome to the webinar for the incoming international MSW students. Shia and I are excited to get to talk with you both, with all of you today, and to share some information as you prepare to come to Ann Arbor and to start the MSW program. So since our cameras are muted, since our cameras aren't on, we'll wanted to just introduce ourselves visually here and let you know who we are and what our roles are. So I'm Katie Lopez. I'm the Assistant Director of the Office of Global Activities. And my office services kind of anything international. So sending students out, welcoming exchange students, international students, visiting scholars in, things related to academics around international interests that students may have, and a variety of other activities that kind of all fall under our office.
And I'm Shia Chen. I'm actually a current international student at the School of Social Work. I also work with Katie and at the Office of Global Activities. And so I am studying community organization and minoring in management. And so if you have any questions in the future, you can also let me know. And at the same time, I help Katie at OGA to do coffee hours for international students and all kinds of different supports. This is what I do.
Yeah.
Welcome.
And so just to let you know, we'll refer to our office often as OGA, so that's for Office of Global Activities. And then also to let you know, so that you don't feel like you have to take a bunch of notes, we will be sharing the slides. So there will be a recording of the webinar, because we know the timing isn't great for everybody depending on where they are in the world, but also so that you can have all the links to click on, and so you can refer back to the information. So within the next week, Shia will be getting all of that up onto the web and sending a follow-up email, so don't feel as though you need to write everything down. Just a little bit of session housekeeping. All of you are currently muted, just so there isn't any interference with sound competing or background noises. But if you have any questions during the webinar, it looks like you've all found the chat box. You can throw your questions into the chat box. Shia and I there's a question period at the end, and we'll definitely make sure to answer those, or if it's something very specific to your situation, we'll either follow up individually through email or through a phone call. Like I said, the presentation slides will be posted, and so there's an important information for incoming students link here that you can access, and again, Shia will send out a note. It typically takes us a couple days for our web team to get that posted, and so we'll let you know once that's up and running. So in terms of our agenda for today, we'll be talking a little bit about timeline. So there are a couple of things that'll be happening throughout the summer that we want to make sure you're aware of as you prepare to start the program. Then Shia will be talking about arrival logistics and life in Ann Arbor. She's really the person you all want to talk to, since she's lived this experience. And so she'll be sharing some of the advice from, previous international and current international. We'll talk a little bit about academics and field placements. And then at the end, we will have a chance for you all to unmute yourselves and to turn your videos on and just introduce yourselves quickly. And then we'll have question and answer. And like I said, the chat function is always something that'll work. Your initials appear with it. So again, if it's something that's very specific, we may get back to you by email. So in terms of the timeline, there's a lot of stuff that'll happen before you actually start the program in the fall. One of the really most important things to do is to make sure that you've got your University of Michigan email account set up and that you're checking it. Because a lot of information is going to be sent out through our Office of Student Services, potentially from the field office, and you want to make sure that you're receiving those messages so you don't miss out on any of the information that's being shared. If you think you might be eligible for an exemption from a course, given some of your previous coursework, those are things that you can submit all summer long, and information about that has been sent out already. There is also an orientation toolkit, and this is something that we would recommend that you all spend some time with. So you can see on this page, there is an admitted students page, and there's a whole bunch of different boxes here that talk about, your field experience, our diversity, equity, inclusion, financial aid. So you can go through these different boxes, and within each one, you can look at the global opportunities one. That's our office. There's a short video where we talk about the different opportunities that are available for students, and then there's links to more resources that you might use. So the toolkit is something that we really highly encourage you to take some time to look through. It also has a log of the official communications that have gone out about various things. So, you know, if there was an email that you lost or you can't remember where it was, you can look back through here and kind of see the exemption process, for instance, is outlined here. So that's a really important page that you'll want to make sure to look at. There's also registering for classes will take place in July. Do know that there are different registration periods for different types of students. So if you hear that someone already started registering for classes, don't worry about that because they've been set up in particular ways. So I know like the advanced standing students that already have a BSW degree do register earlier, but that won't impact students that are, you know, starting with the foundation social work courses because they won't be taking those classes. So you will have gotten an email about your particular registration, appointment time, and some resources like our course planning worksheets that you'll want to make sure to refer when you're setting up your classes. And if you have questions about that, our Office of Student Services is a great resource for, you know, asking questions about how does registration take place or what questions you might have at this point. We also have on campus the English Language Institute, and they have an online course that you can take. And so this course is called Preparing for Graduate Success. And it's a 2-week or it's a 4-week online course that's basically designed to kind of get you prepared to jump into classwork once you come. So if that's something you're interested in, registration is required by July 12th, and we have the link to that resource there. So that may be something you want to consider. There is a fee that's with that. Is it $200 for that ELI course? So that's something you might want to look at and consider. Also, our International Center on campus is the one that, if you have been going through visa process, the International Center has been the one that's helping to coordinate that. They put on an extensive 3-week summer orientation with all kinds of sessions. Most of them are repeated multiple times over those 3 weeks. And so we won't click on that link right now because I don't think their orientation list has been updated yet for this year, but that'll be coming soon. And so that's something to pay attention to. There's everything from how to buy a car and drive in Ann Arbor to how to make friends to how to do banking to academic, you know, norms within the U of M and US systems. And so those are something that I would encourage you to attend to. And if you're lucky enough and pick the right session, you might see Shia because she works at the International Center as well. So she's everywhere. We have what we call our Seed Week, which is kind of our orientation week. And SEED stands for Share, Explore, Engage, and Discover. And during the first day of Seed Week, we will have an international student orientation, which Shia will be leading, that will talk about some topics very specific to, you know, your success in the MSW program. That's something, that's your first kind of on-campus obligation. We highly encourage you to arrive in time to attend that orientation. It'll also be the time we'll pair it with the required check-in you need to do for your visa status. The International Center will have a representative that comes in the afternoon that'll do that check-in. So it's nicely paired in that instead of then having to make another appointment to go over to the International Center, you can get all of that done in one day. And then on September 4th, which is a Tuesday, the Monday is a holiday here. And so the Tuesday, September 4th is when classes and field work for the 20-month students would begin. So lots of information, but again, we'll be sharing these slides. Some important other web links that you might want to look at in advance. University of Michigan, we're the Wolverines is our mascot. So we have an online system called Wolverine Access. Wolverine Access is kind of your one-stop shopping for all of your needs related to your program. So there's all kinds of things on there. That's where you'll register for your classes. It's where financial aid information is. It's where you can find your class schedule. You know, if you end up having a job on campus, you can look at, you know, your paycheck on there. All kinds of different information is contained within Wolverine Access. So that's an important site to become familiar with, which you for sure will during the registration process. Again, your University of Michigan email account, we have email accounts that are set up through Gmail. And so you'll have your Gmail account that has your University of Michigan unique name. at umich.edu. And again, it's very important that you check that or have that forwarded to an email account that you do check on a daily basis. And then we have a course management platform. People may be familiar with Blackboard, or there are other types of class management systems online. Ours is called Canvas. And so almost all of the classes within the MSW program will have a Canvas site where the instructors stores resources, will have you submit assignments. There may be kind of chat features that you may use for different parts of the course. And so there is also a student guide for using Canvas, and that may be something that you want to look through. I wouldn't spend a ton of time on it. It's pretty intuitive, but it is the primary course management system that's used by all School of Social Work and U of M faculty. So in terms of pre-arrival logistics, as we talked about before, there are admitted student resources. So this is what that page looks like. That's got all of the different modules that we talked about. So that's an important one. There's important information for incoming students. This is where the webinar will be posted. So this gives you information about all kinds of different questions you might have, some frequently asked questions pages, and guides around all kinds of things from financial aid to getting a laptop, that. And then there is a pre-arrival guide for international students that the International Center has put together. And so the International Center has tons of information for helping you throughout your process here. And so this is another good page to take a look at. So now she is going to talk a little bit about arrival logistics.
Okay, so for international students, when we come over here, some of us will already have some kind of connections, but a lot of us don't. And so here in Ann Arbor actually has a lot of transportation systems that we can utilize. One, the first thing that we will need to know is from the airport to Ann Arbor to U of M, the school. And so the nearest airport to Ann Arbor is Detroit Metropolitan Airport, DTW. And so when you're booking your tickets, make sure that you book the right ticket to DTW. And then once you arrive to the airport, there are several things that we can utilize. The first thing which is what I use the most, is called Michigan Flyer. And so Michigan Flyer is an air ride, so it's like a bus that connected the airport to Ann Arbor, to Campus Transit Center. And so what you can do is to click on this link, and then it has, so you can pick whether you want one-way or round trip. So if we're just coming from the airport to Ann Arbor, it's a one-way trip, and then you choose where you want to depart from the airport or the airport. And if you're in the future, if you're going from Ann Arbor to the airport, you can choose Ann Arbor's stop and then just book the ticket. And then it has different, well, you can put in like the time and then when you want to depart, and then they will have the schedule for you to pick on.
And the Michigan Flyer is really cheap. I think it's $12 one way, as opposed to about $45 or $50 if you were to take a taxi. So it's a great option when you come in.
Right. And the only disadvantage about Michigan Flyer is that it's a set schedule. And so sometimes if we arrive very late or very early, it might not have the bus running. And so that's when we can utilize Uber, Lyft, or even a taxi. And I think most of you probably already know Uber. It's an app. And so you can download the app and then connect that with your card, and then debit card or credit card. And then once you get to the airport, you can use it to get a Uber, Lyft, or even taxi. You can find a taxi in the airport and then just come to Ann Arbor. And then the third thing is maybe you have your own network. You can find your friends, or you can see if anybody, like a family friend, can pick you up from the airport to Ann Arbor. And then once you are in Ann Arbor, there's also tons of transportation systems going on in Ann Arbor. The first thing that you will notice that there are a lot of blue bus running in the city. And then so the school, the University of Michigan, they have their own transportation system. So they hire their own drivers, and also they have their own buses that's running, and that's totally free for all U of M students. And so once you come to this campus, whenever you see a blue bus, you can just hop on the bus, and then you can hop off the bus whenever to the places that you need. And we have a link here for you that you can always see the routes of different blue buses. And then there's also city buses. It's called the Ride, and that's the white buses that's running around in the city. For the white buses, what we need is to use our M card to use the system. So whenever you go on a white bus, you can just use your M card and then swipe the card, and then it's totally free for all U of M students. And we also have the routes and schedules for you here. And then another good transportation system for us is the Detroit Connector. So this bus system connects the Ann Arbor to Detroit. So it has a stop at the city center at Detroit, and it also has a stop at Dearborn. And it costs $8 for one way for U of M students, and then $16 for a round way. And then here you can also book the ticket and then see the routes, and also look into the schedules. And then other things that you may want to consider is the social work carpooling system. This is not yet on our website, but in the fall, this will be launched on our website. And so we will give you more information in the future. And then in addition, it's just taxi, Uber, Lyft, and other car rental system. If you want to know more, you can click on this more information, and you can see more information about transportation.
And just one quick note, Shia mentioned your M card. Your M card is your University of Michigan identification card. So it's something that you'll get shortly after you arrive on campus. So it's something you can scan to get into the buses for free. You may use it to get into particular buildings on campus. It'll be connected with your printing services that you have. So it's something that you will want to get shortly after your time on campus. Your first M card is free. If you lose your M card, there's a $20 or $25 fee after that. So it's something you'll want to make sure you keep track of, because it does allow for free transportation.
And then another note for transportation is when like if you have your own car in the future, here we have some information about parking, and also like where are the spots for parking in Ann Arbor. Another thing besides transportation that's super important for us is housing. And so for us, I don't know if any of you have already found your housing, but the majority of our students in the University of Michigan rent apartments in Ann Arbor or neighboring city. It's called Ypsilanti. And we know that for international students, usually because we don't have transportation, so most of us are on campus, so in Ann Arbor. So here are a few links for you that you can go into to find housing. So there are two categories of housing. One is the campus housing, and then one is off-campus housing. And so campus housing is organized by the school and then provided by the school. And here's a link that you can go into to see all kinds of different housing options. And so you can come in and then to see if you're a single graduate student, if you have family, and then they have all kinds of different options for apartment and townhouse, or Munger, which is closer to Central Campus in Ann Arbor. And then there's also the social work roommate finder on our social work website here. And so this is a very, very handy tool that you can post your housing or roommate list. And then here you can post either you need a housing or you will see the list of like people who need housing, and then also people who need roommates. You can just go over this list and then find the ones that fit you the most. Other things that you might want to look into is the off-campus housing website. So the one that I just showed earlier is the one just for social work students, but this one is whole campus-wide. And so you can also find different kinds of housing option and price range from here. Lastly, it's Craigslist. So this is something that's open to everybody. So it's not just for the students at U of M, but this is for anybody. And then you can see that they have all kinds of services here. And so when you're finding housing, you can dig into all these links and then just to see what fits you most and then what fit into your budget and what you want. And if you have any other questions about housing, you can always let me know or let Katie know, and then we will see what we can do to help you. Another very, very important note for you is that for international students, because we're F1 students with our visa status, so we're required to update our address and Wolverine access within 10 days of any address change. So whenever we find a housing or once we moved here, it's highly recommended that you just go to Wolverine access and then to update your address. And if you have any questions about this, feel free to come to me and then I will show you how to do it. Okay. And then like Katie mentioned earlier, the International Center has all kinds of information for international students, and including like cell phones, banking, and then how do you get your driver license, how do you do, what are the services for house insurance, and then if you have a kid, childcare, and also all kinds of social events. And so if you go into this website, you will see all the links, and they have very, very detailed descriptions about all of that. Some other helpful links for international students. So there is a graduate RECAM International organizations on campus. So they are not with the School of Social Work, but they're for all international students, all graduate international students on campus. So if you ever are interested in joining an organization, you can go to this link. And then there are also some other social media platforms. I know that the School of Social Work will create a new Facebook group for the incoming cohort in the coming weeks. So I don't think it's on yet, but soon you will get invited to join the Facebook group. But then outside of the social work group, there's also the U of M Facebook page. And so if you go on Facebook and then just type in like University of Michigan, you can find all kinds of different groups. And there are a lot of groups for housing or sales or secondhand sales or even car sales. And so feel free to like dig into all of that. I personally don't have a Twitter account, but I know that there's also some kinds of groups on Facebook for University of Michigan students. And so you can, if you have a Twitter, you can also go into it and then just explore it. Other things that you might be interested in is some other kinds of involvement. And so the U of M, the bigger university, has something called campus involvement, and that's where they have all kinds of different organizations on. And then if you go to the Maze page, here it has all kinds of different organizations, just not just within the School of Social Work, but within the entire campus. And then there are also University Musical Society if you're interested in music, or athletic side that you can look into if you're interested. And then we also have some other organizations in the School of Social Work. And so once we will talk about it more during our orientation on the 27th in August. And if you have any questions before that, just feel free to let me know. Here are also some, so this is a building information and maps for you. So if you wonder where the School of Social Work is, you can click into this link and then it has the address, phone number, and the navigation for you to come.
So next we want to talk a little bit about the massive open online course. So in one of those, the newly admitted page, one of those kind of tiles, we opened up the tile around the global opportunities. One is around what we call this MOOC, a massive open online course. And so this is something that was developed a couple of years ago by School of Social Work faculty to help provide an overview to what social work is in the U.S. And also to give an introduction to the U of M School of Social Work program. So there are different modules within that. It takes some time to go through, so I would recommend carving out some time, kind of thinking like you'll go through a module, however you want to do it, one a week, one a day, until you get through it. But it's particularly helpful for our international students. I know that one of the things that can be challenging is understanding the U.S. social work history and the social welfare kind of system, which is quite complicated in the U.S. It's not easy to understand, and so I think that that's one of the things that international students often talk about is they're not familiar with some of those systems and structures, and so there is one particular module in the MOOC that covers this. So we really recommend that you check that out before you come to the program.
Yeah, last year when I was in your shoes, I remember I was in Taiwan and going over all the MOOC, and the MOOC was really helpful for me to have an understanding about like what the context is in the US and so.
And then I just want to talk a little bit about academic schedules. So I'm going to talk first about the 16-month schedule and then about the 20-month schedule. As of right now, we don't have any international students that are advanced standing, so we'll just stick to those two. But just to give you a sense of what things look like over the course of your time in your program here. So if you are a 16-month student, as you can see, during the first semester, you will just be taking classes. Your field placement won't start until January, and so the typical schedule has you taking about 15 credit hours. Then in the winter semester, that's when you'll start your field placement. So you can see the field placement hours are here. And so you'll be applying, you'll get information about applying, and you'll fill all of that out for your field in October, and then hopefully by January, you'll be placed and ready to start. So at that point, you'll be in your field about 2 days a week. And you'll be taking 3 credits of field, and then the rest of your 3 days will be taking coursework. So you'll be split between your field placement and between your coursework. During the spring-summer semester, the third semester, you'll actually bump your field days up to 4 days a week. So you'll primarily be doing field. You'll be doing around 30 to 32 hours a week. And then 1 day a week, you'll have a class day. And you'll typically students take 2 classes. So they'll take 1 class from 8 to noon, and then a second class from 1 to 5. And you're looking at around 14 credit hours then. And then your last fall semester, your field hours will go back down to 2 days a week. Your field or your coursework will be about 3 days a week, and you'll be at about 16 credits. There are course planning worksheets, and that information was shared in the email you got about your registration period. So these are all kind of the general way that things are set up, but there's a lot of flexibility to, if there's a mini course that you're really interested in, you may take 16 or 17 credits in your first fall semester, and that may give you some space in one of the other semesters to take less coursework. But this is kind of the general way that the academic schedule is set up for 16-month students. So first semester, no field, and then the last 3 semesters, you're doing field. In terms of the 20-month schedule, those students will start their field placement in September right away. They will, throughout the course of the program, they will be in field 2 days a week. And so there will always be a mix of class time and field time for these students. Typically 3 days a week they're taking classes, and then 2 days a week they're in field. So again, you can see kind of how this comes out in terms of the credit hours. Then the students are in classes and in field from basically September through the end of April. Then the spring-summer semester is off, and so the 20-month students are not enrolled during this time, and they, may choose to use that time in a bunch of different ways. I know some of our international students go home, some of them are here engaged in other opportunities, but you're not taking any formal coursework during that time. And so if that is your schedule, you should have already applied for field or should be planning to submit your field application very soon, so that the field office can begin working with you on getting you placed so that you're all set up to start field in September. And then 20-month students have the opportunity to either continue in the same field placement when they start in their second September, or they can apply for a separate new field placement. So I'm actually a graduate of the program and was a 20-month student, and so I had 1 field placement the first year, and then I did switch to a different field placement the second year, which was nice. I had the experience of working with a very small grassroots organization that was doing organizing, and then I later worked at a larger county-funded program, so I kind of got a mix of 2 different types of placements. In terms of field, field is one of the places where students often have a lot of questions or maybe have some stress around what field will look like. Shia has actually been doing a lot of work this summer in kind of identifying some of the places where we could provide more support for international students in particular. So we want to make sure to click on some of these links here. Incoming field students, this is where you'll get all of the information you need. So if you're admitted for fall 2018, you would pick this, and then if you're in the 20-month, you can look at all the different programs that you're in, and it'll pull up information for you. So this is definitely a site you'll want to visit. There's also a field placement webinar that occurred that you can watch. So the recording of that, similar to this webinar, is available. And new this year is something that our field office has been working really hard on in collaboration with Shia to put together a page specific for international students around what field's like, what you need to do, you know, as you go through this process. And so this is a lot of information that was developed specifically with international students in mind, because there are some different considerations. The last thing I want to mention is there are some global and national field placements that are an opportunity. And so if this is something that you're interested in, first, it does require that you're a 16-month student and that you start a local field placement in Ann Arbor, Detroit, Ypsilanti in the fall. And then your schedule would be a little bit different. You would have field 2 days a week in the fall and the winter, and then over the spring summer you could potentially either go overseas to do one of our international field placements, but we also do have some national field placements. And our office recently sent out a message that we've a couple of new placements that are developed in Chicago that are working with populations from Asia. And so the Chinese American Service League is one of them, and they're particularly looking for students that have Mandarin and Cantonese skills. So it doesn't always have to be that you're going overseas, but you could be working with international populations that are here in the US. So that's a little complicated, and that there's logistics that have to be set up to make that a possibility. But if a global or national placement is something you're interested in, please do reach out to me directly or to the Office of Global Activities, and you know, one of us will respond with some more information there.
So one thing that international students are, the field process is very different from the domestic American students, is that we need to apply for something called CPT, Curricular Practical Training, before we start our field. And so what is CPT? CPT is kind of like an employment status for all F1 students. And so if we have the F1 visa, we are required to have a CPT authorization before we work anywhere else outside the school, the university. And so CPT authorization is granted for one term only and for each field site. So because our MSW program requires us to do internship every semester, which is called field placement, and so we have to apply for CPT every term. If you're a 20-month student, you probably already gotten an email from the OSS office and then explaining about what CPT is and what CPT is not. And if you're a 16-month student, you will get it in October. And if you haven't gotten any email, don't panic. It's okay. Like the Office of Student Services, they will send you the link and then the description soon. And so once you get that description, you can start to go online, and then there's a course organized by the International Center for CPT certificate, and you'll go over that course and then you will print out a certificate. And this is important for 20-month students because for 20-month students, students start their field placement right in the fall semester. So that's your first semester. And so we actually organize a session for 20-month students during the orientation on August 27th to go over the CPT process with the international advisor. And so for 20-month students, please go over the certificate, online certificate course before you come over, and then make sure that you bring all the copies of the required letter to the orientation, and then we will walk you through how to do it. And then for 16-month students, you will get more information in the middle of your fall semester, so in August. And if you have any questions about CPT, always come to us, and then always let us know if you have any questions. And here is a link about the letter that you're about to get for CPT, and here has a lot of detailed steps about how you can how you need to apply for it, and then how to get the course, and then what are the documents that you need for CPT. So it may seem a little complicated now, but once you really walk through one time, in the future semesters, whenever you're applying for it, it's going to be very easy. And then if you ever have any questions, again, like you can ask us, and then you can also ask Michelle at the Student Services. Finally, we have a little page about some tips from current students and alumni from the MSW program. And we just want you to know that, like, once you come here, you have a family here at the School of Social Work, and not just international students, but also local students here, and try to meet with different kinds of students and get to know different kinds of students and start to build your support network, because it's really important to have your own community here, and then the community will be your support, and then we will. And let our office, Katie or I, or any other new international students or current international students know if you ever need anything. And then just be open to new cultures. The U.S. culture is very different from like any kind of cultures that we were in our home country. But it's a really interesting culture, and I just recommend and suggest you to be open, and then just to learn about new things. And then don't be afraid to reach out. Like I said, like there are a lot of people that you can reach out to, and then be proactive, and then self-directed your own learning. The learning styles may be different from what you were used to, but it is going to be expanding your mindset, and then also broadening your perspectives. Also be ready to get a lot of understanding of politics and the American context. Like Katie was saying when we were talking about the MOOC, in the School of Social Work here at U of M, there's a huge focus on the American context and also how to do social work in the US. And so sometimes it may be a little complicated when we first come here, but try to learn about it, and then try to be open about it. I remember when I first come over here, like the US system, like the legal system, and then all different kinds of like House of Representatives and all of that, it seems to be complicated for me. But after a semester of learning all these ideas and learning the system, like it actually helped me a lot with my understanding about social work and with my understanding about the US. And so finally, don't be afraid for cultural shock. You may experience it, but just for you to know that we are all here for you. And there are different kind of supports that the school has for you. The first thing is your academic advisor. So every student will get an academic advisor, and they are faculty and professor of the school. And we really recommend you to schedule like an appointment with your advisor early on in the semester, so that they can get to know you, and you can also ask them about any questions that you have with your academic study. And then it's the International Center that we show you earlier, that they have legal immigration advisor for you there. And so if you ever have any legal question, or if you have questions about your F1 visa, what you can do and what you cannot do, feel free to reach out to them and then talk to them. And lastly, we have different kinds of offices for counseling, and then for student services, and also your legal services, financial aid, and many, many more services in the school and also in the entire university. And so reach out to us, and then we will help you and direct you to the offices that can help you the most.
And I just want to add one other thing before we jump into the introductions. Our Office of Global Activities, in addition to offering things like the international field placements, we offer something that's called a Global Independent Study, which is an opportunity for students to apply for funding to go overseas from anywhere from 2 weeks to 4 months, depending on your curriculum track, and to set up an opportunity to earn elective credit during that period of time. And we've had a lot of our international students that have pursued that opportunity as well. Some of them have gone back to their home country to look at an issue and kind of compare them between the US system and here. We had a student that went back to Chile last year that was doing that, kind of looking at some of the work she was doing here in the US and how that differed with the work that was going on in Chile. We have other students that take advantage of it and go to different places. So Shia is actually an example of that. So she did a global independent study earlier this year or earlier this summer and went to the UK. And so that's something that if you're interested in that, I'd recommend you looking at the Office of Global Activities website, and there's a particular link for the Global Independent Study option, but that is open to students in all curriculum tracks and all practice area and methods. So I'd highly recommend, if you're interested in adding a global component or a travel component to part of your coursework, to look at that page and then to send an email to ssw.oga@umich.edu if you have any questions. And Keisha, who works in our office as well, does a lot of the advising for incoming students to answer their questions if they're interested in that opportunity or another opportunity to add a global focus. Got to self-promote here.
Okay, so now we are in the session. We can hear about who you are and then learn a little bit about you. So these are the people that you can really reach out to when you first got here if you have any questions regarding like international experience and how these students navigate their first year in the School of Social Work. Here's the email address that Katie mentioned earlier. So this is the Office of Global Activities email address. And so if you have any questions about it, you can feel free to email this email address, and then we will try to get back to you as soon as possible with the answers. And if you have any other questions, like, please feel free to ask us now. Katie and I are here just to answer your questions.
Well, it sounds like maybe no other questions at this point, but we appreciate you all making the time to join us, whether it's early morning for you or late in the evening or somewhere in between. But we will look forward to meeting you all come this fall. As she mentioned, you know, she kind of takes the lead in a lot of the programming and work that we do with our international students. But the Office of Global Activities, you should really see it as your home, as a place you can go if you have questions or if things come up that you're not sure how to address. Please, you know, feel free to stop by our office. I also have chocolate in my office. That's a great reason to stop by, even if you don't need something in particular. But we hope that you'll engage with some of the programs that we have. Shia will be working on some of the coffee hour events that we have every 2 weeks. Is a chance for international students to get together. Sometimes we have a particular topic, and at other points we just have a space and time for you all to get together. Seeing you all in Ann Arbor for the International Student Orientation on August 27th.